Good evening, all. It's the caller here. I'm clearly not in the man cave. I'm in the dining room tonight with the lead piping, and I'm joined by three fantastic guests, and myself, I suppose that makes four, including one who was all the way there in Marseille. Craig, how are you? And welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much. Glad to be back, and I am still suffering the after effects of the trip to Marseille this week.
Yeah,
it's been a long week.
I'm definitely coming back and interrogating you about that next. So hold that thought. Welcome back to the show. HG, how is Vienna this evening?
It's been very English today, light drizzle. But all right. I mean, I'm all right because it's my last day off before I have to go back to work on Monday.
Yeah.
But there are worse things. It's only another, I think,
Never
week and a half. A week. I think we get the November the 15th off as well for some Catholic holiday. I don't know, but life's good.
What a joke. And Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, no, I'm all good, feeling good, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. Let us know what your thoughts were on the game on Tuesday night, and do send in those super chats. Remember to smash that like button; really helps us out, costs you nothing, and hit the subscribe. We are so close to 6,000. I can smell it. Craig, let's start with you. So, how was the trip to Marseille? Talk me through. We've got a little bit of a picture here, I think, somewhere along the line.
It was a bit of an evolving journey.
Oh,
that's me. I've had plenty too much lager at that point. Very drunk, but it was an evolving. I was meant to originally be flying out of Heathrow, and then I caught wind of a company called Sports Options that were doing a chartered plane flight out of Luton. So I thought, well, living in Leicester, that's obviously a lot better for me to get down to Luton. So I managed to cancel the flight with BA, and then managed to get onto this this flight. So I was out of Luton 7:30 in the morning, and then I was back into Luton. Didn't get back into Luton till just after 4:30 the following morning. So it was a long 24 hours, but fantastic. Brilliant plane flight out. The first thing I would say is I've been to several European away games. I've never been into an away game where it was it felt like we was in lockdown. From the minute we walked out of that airport, we was greeted by a wall of police and literally, herded into the minibuses, into these vans, into these coaches, which took us to the central square. Which was closed actually because of a gas explosion. So then they hurriedly moved us to another part of the city, about 5 minutes walk away, and we was put into this square, and then we were surrounded by police all the way around. Really didn't want us to go anywhere outside of where they wanted us to go. Managed to sneak out of the police cordon for a little side bit. Found a nice little bar with several Spurs fans, and I drank. I drank a lot, and then it was really interesting. Actually, it's again the first time I've actually seen Spurs stewards all over the place, out on the ground in Marseille, and help. Really trying. They was trying to protect us, really, and they was trying to make sure that we was, doing the right things and kept in the right path. And about 4:00, we were sitting having a drink, and then the Spurs stewards come up and said, "You have to get back to the square to get on the buses into the stadium." At 4:00, this was 4:00. So it was like, we're not going to the stadium 5 hours before kickoff.
I mean, like a Steve Diverism.
Yeah.
That's how Steve Diver gets there. But the difference is he's got a lobster, and Daniel Levy like waving drinks at him when he gets there.
Yeah, exactly. But so anyway, we got herded back into this centre. Then we was put on this bus about 5:15. And then this bus literally did loops of Marseille around the outer ring road, and we was on this bus for about an hour and a half. We went past the stadium 2 times, and I think they was just trying to do everything they could to stop us from drinking effectively and to keep us where they wanted us. But eventually got into the stadium, and went up the stairs. I've got to say, I will swear it's a shithole. Absolute awful place. But got up and we got greeted by the bar, which was literally, if you can imagine, two of the smallest cubby holes you've ever seen in your life. And you can imagine there was hundreds of Spurs fans literally trying to narrow into this gap, which was literally a head's width, wide, to get these drinks. It was absolute carnage. And it was, what's interesting is I was speaking to, again, there was a steward in there and they're taking photos of it, and they said that Marseille originally, with many European away games, they don't serve alcohol in the stadium, but they agreed with Marseille that because they wanted us in the stadium 4 hours earlier before kickoff, they said you can't put them in there that early and not give them alcohol to drink. So they said we could drink alcohol, but clearly they're making it as difficult as possible for us to drink it. Then we got down to our seats. We was literally tucked into this corner of the ground, surrounded by a cage fence and netting. And it was probably the worst view I've ever had of a football game in my life. I was in the lower section, which didn't help, to be fair. But it was. What I will say, credit to the Marseille fans. It was the most hostile most hostile environment I've ever been in a football ground. They really did make it a really intimidating environment to be within, and credit to them for that. They love a firework as well. I don't know if you heard on the TV.
Yeah, they let them off outside the hotel, didn't they?
Yeah, they did in the middle of the night, and then there's this constant banger going off every couple of minutes. Yeah, literally French scum.
Sacre bleu.
But credit again. No trouble really. There was a couple of Spurs fans decided to try and scale the wire fence cage to wind up the Marseille fans at 1-1.
Stupid idea.
Very stupid idea. And of course, you can imagine the French police didn't mess around too much. They come down and give them a little tap with a baton. Yeah. And then they soon backed off. But yeah, other than that, fair play. The police did their job. They kept us apart. And as it happens, it was in the end a fantastic day.
Yeah,
and interestingly, we got back to. Yeah, absolutely. And we got back to the airport and then we saw the Spurs players coming through.
Oh, really?
Which was nice. Yeah, saw them coming back in. So
did they stop and sign autographs or anything like that?
No. Well, the police tried to keep us out. So when we got back to the airport, bear in mind, we was kept in the stadium for an hour and a half afterwards. They wouldn't let us out the stadium, which was ridiculous. And then eventually we got back to the airport, and then the police then said, you can't go in because Tottenham have just turned up. So, of course, as soon as they told 400 Spurs fans, Spurs are in there, they weren't stopping.
We're going in.
We're going in. So everyone piled in, but there was just behind him. So they waved. We got a wave from a couple of them. But, then they went through. So it was really, really good.
So do you think that the French police were worried about what you guys might do, or worried about what the French might do to you lot, and so kind of protected you?
Yeah, I think they were trying to protect us. I think they were. Sorry, the first thing that they said when we got off the bus at Marseille in the morning, when we approached them, this chief police guy said, we're here to protect you guys. So do what we say. Stay where we tell you to stay, and you'll be fine. And then they made it clear that they didn't say this, but the inference was, if you don't do what we say, we're going to gas you, because they was holding up their bloody gas gun things, the tear gas gun things. So but they were very much, I think, trying to protect us and keep us in bits of the city that they knew we would be safest.
Contained.
And they did do a good job of containing the vast majority of them in that area. Clearly, there's quite a few that made their way via taxis over to the old port bit. But even over there, in whatever people I spoke to in the ground that went to the old port, there was no trouble there either, to be fair. So, all good.
That's good. Last thing you want to do is go all that way and end up in a prison cell, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Garnish of choice in Marseille. Jack wants to know what was the beer like? Any good? I presume it was beer.
Yeah, beer. Yeah, it was strong, 6%. 6.5%. Yeah, so we was in
Not
this
those little stubbies they sell in supermarkets.
No. It's a proper nice, almost bigger than a pint, almost a Steiner, but not quite a Steiner. And with €6 a pint, or €6 a glass. And I had about 3 of them. And I was speaking to the guy behind the bar, because his first question was, "Where's Tottenham? Where is it in the country?" Because He said, I don't understand the accent. But and I'll start speaking to him. And I said, how strong? Because I was feeling a bit whiffy. I was like, I've only had 3 pints. What's going on? He said, how strong is it? He said, it's not too strong. It's 6.5%, 7%. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's why I'm whiffy.
Yeah.
I best lay off this a bit.
I can imagine, yeah. So no garnish, Jack, I'm afraid. No garnish. But a 6.5% beer.
6.5% beer.
Not Kronenberg? Didn't get Eric Cantona serving you Kronenberg or anything, no?
No, none of that, unfortunately.
Is it Kronenberg Cantona does? I can't remember. One of them. It sounds likely. Doesn't really matter, but yeah, interesting insight. Thanks, Craig. I mean, let's recap the game and let's talk through. Were there any surprises from you, Matt, when you saw the starting lineup? Which, I mean, I don't think there was too much surprise from me, really, because I pretty much predicted that. But were you were you shocked at the inclusion of anyone?
No, not really. It's sort of the team that I wanted to see, especially obviously the back three. And if Romero's not available, I'd rather have Dyer at right centre back than Davinson Sanchez. It was nice to see Longley in the sort of middle of the back three, because it kind of gives you that bit of balance because he's left-footed as well. But in the middle, we can sort of switch it more, and he's quite a good ball-playing centre back. So yeah, no, I think it was good, best team we could kind of put out, and no Emerson in there as well, so that's always a bit of a bonus. But no, I was happy with the team, and yeah.
I mean, you were just happy to see anyone at right back, even a left-footed right back, rather than Emerson, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it was Sessegnon that played sort of right wing back.
Was in the end, yeah.
Which was really weird. I thought Perisic would play right wing back, and obviously Sessegnon would play left. But it was. I think it was the best team, near enough, we could put out with the injuries we had. And no, I was happy going into it. Like I say, I was just happy not to see Sanchez and Royale.
HG, similarly, no Sanchez, no Royale. I mean, we talked through it on the preview show, but we pretty much got what we want, didn't we?
I didn't think that we played both left wing backs because I don't think it works. Like as much as people don't rate Royal, which is fine. Like we do have other right-footed wing backs who are fit. Like Doherty could have played. Even Spencer's unlikely, but do you know what I mean? Like they were like. I thought it would be either Royal or Doherty down the right. I really didn't think that we'd have a left footer, and I don't think Sessegnon can really do it there either. So it's that was. I mean, you look at that back five. It's not. You don't look at it and think, "Wow, that's going to be defensively solid." But it was clear that we thought that the best way to kind of to have a threat going forward was to go the 3-4-3 and not try and hold the ball and go 3-5-2. So. It was interesting what happened later on, but I think initially there was a case of no, we want to try and have decent players who can go forward because Lucas has something in him, and Perisic and Sessegnon can do something going forward. It's not the most defensive team we could have picked by any means.
No, and for me, I suppose similar to you, the only surprise was that Sessegnon was at right wing back, which just seems a bit bonkers when you've got an international right wing back and an under-21 international right wing back on the bench. But obviously, it started out that way. Craig, was there an anti-Emerson feeling? Was everyone celebrating the fact that Emerson Royal? I heard a song. I think you sent it actually.
Yeah, I think I might have done. Yeah,
but you may be too drunk to remember.
I was I was very drunk, but I do remember clearly. We was very there's cheers when I was in the obviously underneath when the team got out. And
do you remember the song?
No, I can't, to be honest. I think it's in one of the videos I sent.
It's he can't defend, he can't attack. Emerson Royal is our right wing back.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, that was it. That song on the bus on the way to the ground. That was. So I think there was definitely a cheer he wasn't in the team, and I was happy he wasn't in the team. And similar to the other guys on the panel tonight, no Sanchez and no Royal was what I wanted to see. So it's as good as it could have been, I think.
Yeah. How do you think Longley fared? We've got Dave. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight. He's a massive Longley fan. He'll be really delighted to see him open his account in the Champions League. But he had a good game, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think Lenglet's done too much wrong. Like, I know that everyone will bring back the first Bournemouth goal, but like, he's not necessarily turned. The guy just plays it the other side of what he was expecting. So I think for someone that we got in on loan, and we're probably only paying a chunk of his wages, because there's no way Barcelona.
He's on massive wages.
Yeah, he's on massive wages at Barcelona, but that doesn't mean we have to pay him all.
Right?
No. They were just looking to try and get rid of something. So, considering he's not played too often, maybe been involved in 6 or 7 games, maybe not even that many. He looks quality on the ball. He's not the quickest, but I mean, neither's Dyer, neither's Davies. He's quite. The fact that he's calm on the ball means a lot. I will say that for Spurs for Spurs fans who have seen various defenders in the last 5 to 10 years with Toby and with Vertonghen, like we like to see a defender that can pass it, and Lenglet clearly can.
What I would say is we didn't exactly get off to a lightning start, did we, Matt? How did you feel when you were watching that? I mean, we were so poor in that first half. I mean, were you despairing like I was?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all a bit, it's a tough watch, the first half, isn't it? I just think it's frustration more than anything, because, they go and show you what they can do, and we've seen a lot of the second halves this season, and you're just like, why can't you put it into a 90-minute sort of performance? I don't quite understand it. There were rumours that he's doing it until after the World Cup to, conserve our energy, and then, we'll go for it in the second half of the season. But for me, it's a risky, I suppose, tactic, because, like you say, if we come up against a better team and play like that in that first half, it will be game over. We can't afford to really do that on the weekend. I know Liverpool are obviously off form or of sorts, but they've still got players who will, score goals out of nothing. Salah, Nunez, players like that. But it is frustrating watching us in that first half, because you're just like, come on, move the ball. And some of them are just walking around, the pitch. And you're like, why don't we play like that in the first half? Play to that ability. You might have been able to put the game to bed, and then you can make some subs. Because clearly in the, obviously with the second half showing, I mean, we pretty much, apart from a few chances of theirs, I mean, we could have scored more than 2, really. We had chances. We had one that was ruled out, wasn't it, for offside? So it is just frustrating, I think. And but I just think we're in a sort of process where he doesn't fully trust that team yet. And I think you can see that.
In the stadium, Craig, how do you get going? How do you get I mean, obviously,
it was tough.
It's a good motivator, but that's got to be hard.
That first half, I will say, it was really difficult in the crowd, because we were trying to make noise, and I don't know how much it come across in the state and on TV, but we was trying, but we was just outsung, really, or outnoised by the Marseille fans. I mean, it was such a hard. Every time we would start and even have an eminence of making a noise, they would just come back on us and they would absolutely drown us out. And I think with what we were seeing on the pitch, I think what my sense is, everyone was just a bit, not this again. I mean, we've come all this way and this is what we're seeing. And I think everyone, particularly me, was regretting my life choices at halftime, and just dreading the fact that I've got to go all the way home with this. And I think it's fair to say that we didn't see. I mean, where we were, obviously that in that side of the corner, all we saw was Marseille attack after attack after attack. It was pretty dire from inside to fan as a Spurs fan. And I've talked about, obviously I go to the home games, season ticket holder, but I see Spurs a lot, but that first half felt particularly bad. I don't know. I mean, I've not watched it back on TV yet, to be honest. So in full, I've watched the highlights, but I don't know how it felt. But it certainly felt really bad to me in the stadium.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It ranks up there with the most turgid displays under Nuno or Jose.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I think it's also to do with expectations, isn't it? Like, at this point, we should all be watching Spurs thinking, this is going to happen, boys. Like, prepare yourself for it. Because it's not the first time. And to me, it was really interesting that, that last 15 minutes of the first half, where there were a couple of occasions where the ball fell to Son on the edge of the area after a corner, and he could have brought it down, But the first thought, the only thought, was to just whack the ball upfield. Bissouma did it a couple of times, and when you see that, you think that's not what Son wants to do. Right? There is nothing about that action that says, "Oh yeah, that's Son at his best. That's how he wants to play football." So to me, they have been told to do it. And it's interesting, the idea of like doing it before the World Cup because you want to conserve energy and all the rest of it. Like the fixtures don't get any less after the World Cup. We still play basically every midweek, especially if we continue in the cups. Like if we beat Forest on Wednesday night, the fourth round of the EFL Cup is just 3 days after the World Cup final. It's before the Premier League starts. So it's kind of like, I get it. It's not fun to watch, but we should be surely expecting it to be this way. Even against Liverpool, I could see it being this way. I just think that we've set our stall out, and that's what we want to do. We want to try and keep it as tight as possible before half time, and then play football for the second half.
Which is a really strange philosophy, if you ask me. But there you go.
Yeah,
it does appear to be what's happening.
I mean, it seems like obviously the idea is you either do that and you say first 45 we're not really going to do much, second 45 we're going to go for it, and if you try and switch it, you might go all out in the first 45 minutes, but if you don't get what you want, then you've then got to go again for the next 45 minutes. Whereas in effect, if you want to say we're going to turn this hour and a half into a 45-minute game of football, that's what we want to do. I don't understand it, but if you think that those are the two choices, then I probably side with the one that we're choosing, just because, as long as you're not. I mean, granted, at Bournemouth we were 2-0 down pretty quickly in the second half, but there haven't been many games this season where we've been down by more than one at half time. I'm not sure there's been any. Like even United got their second really early on in the second half. So if the idea is to keep it tight in the first half and then go for it, well, I suppose we've done that quite well, but it's not the football that we grew up watching and that we really want to see. And if it wasn't a World Cup year, we'd be going absolutely apoplectic. But you just hope there is some plan to it.
Did you see HG?
I think so.
Sorry. Did you see HG? Others. I think it was Ali Gold put out some additional quotes from Kane on the start of play and what actually happened in the Marseille game. I don't know if anyone saw it, and I thought it was really interesting insight. And he was talking about how it's not how they wanted to set up to play, but actually from the players' perspective and the players' mentality, it's a case of they went into that game knowing we only needed a draw, and what they didn't want to do is go out and attack and find themselves 2-0 down, and then out of the game. And they wanted to. So the players were trying to get that balance and struggling to find the balance between defense and attack, and he said that's something that's been consistent in other games this year, hence the first half display. So I think it's quite interesting insight that he's give the impression it's not necessarily about what Conte is saying, it's about how the players are interpreting that and getting that balance between defense and attack. And I just think we're not, and we talked about it in other pods, haven't we, where we're not quite getting that balance right yet, like we did towards the end of last season.
Yeah.
About it being
did Kane start the interview? Yeah, obviously.
I mean, the answer to that is surely, yeah, obviously. If it's a 3-4-3, which it was, then that's going to be a 5-4-1, which it was.
Yeah.
And a 5-4-1 is never going. If you can't keep the ball, it's not going to be a successful thing, especially against a back three, because they can just push up high and make it difficult. And we've seen it all season long. Son can't hold the ball up. It's not his natural game. Can't do it. Lucas is the same. You need Kulusevski or Richarlison. I mean, ideally, if you want to play that way, that's your front three. It's Kane, Richarlison, and Kulusevski.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. Like, I think obviously we lost Son pretty early, went to 3-5-2, and I don't think it helped particularly early on. But once we wanted to try and get back in the game, once we'd conceded, then I think 3-5-2 probably helped us.
87 people watching, 26 likes. Come on, smash the like button. It's absolutely worth hitting that. Costs you nothing. Takes a second, and I'll stop moaning about it when you do. Sonny, bang to the head. I mean, it looked pretty innocuous when it happened, I thought. But then you watch it again in slow-mo, and you can see he's had a fair old whack. Matt, four-part fracture, apparently. And he's had a surgery on Wednesday to stabilise his eye socket. We were talking before the show that maybe he'll make the World Cup in a Mars, but that's him done till then, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. I mean, he hasn't really been pulling up trees, has he, for us? So maybe, this is a chance for him. I suppose just before the World Cup, maybe I mean, he'll be resting and recovering money, and maybe he just needs that almost reset, just where he has a week or two out, get ready if he plays in the World Cup, with his mask on, and hopefully he comes back. The Sonny we know, but it says HG says we're not really necessarily playing to his strengths. Like HG says, he's not going to hold up the ball and bring others into play. That's not really his game. His game is to make those sort of, inside runs and try and move into the centre and find him when he runs late into the box, or give him the ball and, let him run at people. But even this sort of season, he hasn't really, there's not really a moment where I'm like, go and take him on. And then he just sort of turns back and passes it, doesn't he? I mean, he did it in the Marseille game, I think, where we were on the transition, and he could run, maybe go and get a free kick and try and relieve some pressure, and he turns back and passes it back to I think it was Perisic or Sessegnon, and then we end up losing the ball. And problem is, when we're sitting so deep, it's not really naturally his sort of game. But we wish him obviously a speedy recovery, and he'll come back, I'm sure. I mean, he's too good of a player not to, but he's not the only player that's well off it. I mean, you got players like Sterling, Salah, loads of players who aren't necessarily pulling up trees at the moment. So he's too good not to come back from it. But maybe he just needs a bit of a reset and just have a bit of time out.
Seemed to help us a bit, Craig, with him going off and Basuma coming on and switching to 3-5-2. Really, I mean, especially in the second half.
I think so. I mean, I saw some stats today. Again, I think we said that first half was awful, and I think everyone was bad. But he had 6 touches of the ball in the time he was on the pitch.
Yeah.
That's it. He was in all intents and purposes a bystander on that pitch. So by bringing Basuma on in the way that we did, I think inevitably it did help us as a team, because he added that man in midfield and he just added that something else to us, didn't he? Which we clearly wasn't getting from Son. And again, for all the things we talked about, I think I felt sorry for Son, because I just don't think we're playing to his strengths at the moment. We're asking him to do something he's not good at. So it definitely improved with Basuma going on, and I don't think that necessarily has a direct link to what happened in the second half. I think that was more about our mentality and the way we went about the game, as opposed to Basuma coming in and Sonny coming off, or changing formation or shape, which we talked about before. It was the intent that changed second half for me.
Yeah, I think you bang on. I think Hugo kept us in the game up to half time. Much maligned in recent games. Hugo, just another reminder of what a class keeper he really can be, certainly in terms of shot stopping, because I think it was that volley he saved that was going across him. I thought where Sessegnon completely ballsed it up.
Yeah,
I thought that was a goal for sure. Bless him, Hugo done a great job. And then to concede with the header, I mean, it was he was unmarked, free header. Don't get me wrong, brilliant header, well executed. But all he had to do was put everything behind it. It was in the back of the net. HG. I mean, did you fear the worst at that point, or were you thinking positive?
Obviously it's never positive when you concede. So I think I probably sat there and thought, oh, here we go again. But here we go again for Spurs probably means the end result where we turn things around. It's a shame to give away such a soft goal. Like, obviously, we're not trying to give away chances. We're not trying to allow teams to shoot. The chances that a lot of the chances that Marseille had, I feel like most of them came from just poor clearances on our part. You talked about the one that Sessegnon, missed and Veretout almost scored. So no one wants to see the opponent have the ball, and no one wants to see them shooting from 25 yards, because they can find the top corner. We've seen that a couple of times this season. So I think it was clear to me once we'd conceded that we decided now we want to go and play, and like Bentancur would join up top with Lucas and Kane, and we looked like we wanted to play football again. And so it's definitely frustrating when you think, I remember as a kid, Spurs would be awful for 35 minutes, and then suddenly, just as the half is about to end, we'd build up a head of steam, and you're thinking, why didn't we do this 20 minutes ago? And that's kind of how it felt. They scored. Obviously, there was a lot of injury time at the end of the half. So we knew we had a fair bit of time to play, but we went up the other end. Kane had one that was probably going over, but was still saved. And I think Højbjerg had a half chance that he shanked wide. Like we changed everything and yet nothing. Do you know? It's exactly what Craig said. Like the players were the same, but the mentality was completely different. And
quite the same. Not quite the same, because there was a bit more balance of Emerson on at right back for Sessegnon.
That's the second half, yeah. But I'm just talking about even before half time, when we tried to go forward. Like, to me, it was relative. I mean, I say obvious, but like I like seeing players play in their normal position. Like, you may not think much of them as players, but I would always rather see Emerson play on the right hand side than Sessegnon, or Perisic for that matter. I really would. Because as much as you know what he's not going to give you, but in a game like that, maybe we didn't necessarily need that from him. We just needed someone to provide the balance. And let's say the other players, like if Bentancur or Højbjerg feels more confident to go forward and join the attack because they've got Dyer and Emerson on that side, that's got to be good for Spurs. If they're nervous that Sessegnon might make a mistake, or Perisic or whoever, then that's going to affect the function of the team.
Okay, well, let's talk about that second half, because I can't dwell in the first 45 for any longer. Perisic free kick in, Longley with his first Spurs goal in France. As the locals would say at that point. Sacré bleu. Question for all of you. A couple of weeks ago, I asked the question to the panel: if a chance came up to sign Longley on a permanent deal, would you do it? The answer, mainly from Dave, was a resounding no. I was slightly more positive, because I do like Longley. Craig, Longley, would you take him if his wages were reasonable and the fee was reasonable?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think he's proving his worth, isn't he? Or is what he adds to the squad with his passing, his ability on the ball and his passing range, particularly in European games, more so than the Premier League, I think. But yeah, he's done enough to warrant being a player to challenge with Ben Davies for that left centre back for me. Yeah, I think there's better. I think there's better out there potentially, but yeah, if he's available at a reasonable fee and the wages are decent, why not?
HG?
Well, I'm looking to see his contract, right? To see how long he's got left. Looking right now, it says he's under contract at Barcelona for another 3.5 seasons.
He's on 200k a week, isn't he?
So 3.5 seasons when we know that he's going to be owed an awful lot of money. I don't see any reason why he should want to give that up, because he'd have to, Spurs aren't going to pay him that. So would Barcelona want to subsidize that? Maybe. Would Barcelona be willing to give him on a free just to get the wages off the books? Because then Spurs might want to do it. There are lots of things there, but as a player himself, he's 27. If we took over his contract and paid no fee, then I would be seriously tempted, because we know he can play in both roles. Even as the middle centre back, I'd be happy. There's always a concern when you get players on loan, especially if they're not homegrown. They have to be someone that you would play regularly, and he's above Sanchez in the pecking order. So you'd think, okay, well then I'll try and get rid of Sanchez, and then Longley and someone else can come in, and that probably strengthens us. So it all depends on what Barcelona want. If Barcelona want a fee, then I'd be tempted to try and loan him again, and keep it that way, because that if that deal works for us now, it will probably work for both clubs again next summer. You'd imagine. I don't know if Barcelona feel that they could then sell him on to someone else, but if he's comfortable at Spurs and he likes playing at Spurs, then he kind of decides where he goes. It's an interesting one, but I'm not averse to him saying, absolutely not.
Okay. All sorts of put your thoughts in about this as well in the chat. Longley, would you take him on a permanent loan? Matt, what's your view on him?
No, I like what I see of him. I think I definitely want to see a bit more, and maybe him more in the lineup consistently. But as HG says, I think we've got, he's an upgrade on Davinson Sanchez.
Is he an upgrade on Davis? Or Dyer?
I mean, he's probably better at playing the ball out from the back than Davies, I'd say. And I think, he it looks like he's pretty good in the air as well and could be a goal threat. Yeah, he probably is. And he's played at a high level, played for Barcelona, got the Champions League experience. Yeah, I mean, I'd say he is, but that's...
I think it's just interesting about what you want. Like Longley has been either a left centre-back when he was at Sevilla, went to Barcelona, did all right there, but then they played him as a kind of the left-sided centre-back, which he struggles a bit more with. Whereas Davies, because of his past as a fullback, if you want a left centre-back to go forward, Davies is by far the more comfortable one. He looks like he wants to do it. He looks like he's comfortable going there. Longley is more like Vertonghen, who can do a bit of it, but doesn't really want to, would be quite happy if others did that. He's good on the ball. He can pick a pass with either foot. He's not as good as Vertonghen, don't get me wrong, but there's this idea that it's just, what kind of centre-back do you want? To me, Long is a ball-playing centre-back who's quite happy to stay back, doesn't want to push forward, whereas Davies can be a centre-back that is quite happy to join the attack.
I like him in the middle because I think he is, like you say, good at passing the ball out from the back. He can sit a little bit deeper if he needs to and play those he can use his passing range as well. But there's players like Bastoni and players like that potentially could be available. But I think another loan, because I think obviously if he's got 3.5 years left on his contract, so he's 27. It's going to be. They're going to want a reasonable fee, aren't they? Whether it's 20, 25 million, and whether.
Well, if he's playing well as well, I mean, ultimately he's got value.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's the reality.
Like if I'm Barcelona, I'm thinking, you know what? If Spurs are willing to take on 60% of his wages, I think I saw a comment saying that's what we were doing, and we do that for the next 2 years, right? So whatever the loan fee is, fine. There'll be a loan fee, I imagine, but we take on 60% of the wages. And then he'll go back to Barcelona. He'll be 29, 30. He's got a year left on his deal. Someone, you'd imagine, might say, okay, now's the time to spend money and get him, right? But I don't think anyone's going to do it when he's got 3 years left. And the fact he's on such high wages means that I don't see him wanting to give up a fair chunk of money. Like if he gives up half that money, that's 5 million a year. No, he doesn't have to. I mean, some players do it, right? I mean, there are some players who do that because they just want to get away. Dombele's not one of them,
No.
right? So,
but there's also negotiated contracts whereby for the duration of a certain period of time, we could sign him on a permanent transfer and they would still pay a chunk of his wages. I think we did that with Adebayor back in the day.
And it negotiating.
Yeah,
I mean that's it.
Yeah,
I think whatever happens.
But the question was, would you want him?
Yeah,
I'd be happy for him to stay. Yeah, sorry, good.
I would. I was just going to say though, from a squad perspective, numerically, if we don't keep him, we need to find an alternative anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
So we can't afford just to let him go and no one else come back in. So, and I think there's comments in the group about Bastoni coming in. Well, Bastoni's coming to cover a different position for me in that back line. So I think we're using Longley as a good alternative.
Is he a better player than Davis? Is he a better player than Dyer, do you think, in the middle?
I've not seen enough of him. I've not seen enough. Yeah. I mean, you guys watched the game more than I did. You saw a better view of him than I did.
I think it's tough.
Everything I've... Go on, Matt. Go on.
I do. It's a tough one. I mean, sometimes Dyer... I do think Longley's better with the ball than Dyer is, in my opinion. I think he doesn't give the sort of ball away as much. But, Dyer's obviously... He's been longer with the team. He's improved massively. I think we can, all say that. But he's still got his little sort of rickets in him. Is he better than Dyer? I think it's sort of on par. I don't think there's too much difference, but I do think there's a good balance when they're both maybe in the same defence.
Longley over Dyer in the middle. Like considering what Conte did when he won the league and David Luiz was the middle centre back, to me, Eric Dyer is more like David Luiz, and you can take that as a positive and a negative. But I think they're just more similar players. So I suspect Dyer will always be the first choice if others are fit to play in the middle because he's comfortable moving forward into midfield, and sometimes you need that. But I think that that's not to say Longley can't do it, but I just think that considering Dyer had 2.5, 3 years playing defensive midfield, He clearly is much more confident in doing it, and Longley just hasn't had that professional experience.
Yeah. Oh, it's an interesting one. The fact that we're even talking about that shows that he's not been a flop, Dave. Are you listening? So I would absolutely. My view on Longley is he's a better ball player than Dyer. I think he's a better ball player than Davis. He's better at picking apart, a long pass. He's more intelligent footballer, it seems to me, than both of them. And I think he's a lot more progressive. So I'd be more than happy to see him signed, but I think you need a mix of people. So, and that's the case,
If we could start next season with the 5, let's say the 5 that we've played this year.
I mean, the great Bastoni, HG.
Mm-hmm.
The great Bastoni, by the way, is propping up the bench, by the way.
Yeah.
So he's nowhere near the first team at the moment. So all this, and this is the Twitter hype train. This is so. If you remember back to when we signed Longley, why are we signing him? He's shit. Bastoni's brilliant. He's the next thing since sliced bread.
I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that Conte played Bastoni a lot. The new guy doesn't, but Conte did, and
it's also about paying a big fee for me. HG, people want the big, sexy, money signing. Rather than someone, he's second rate, he's on, he's from Barca, he's only coming on loan, he must be shit. But and I think that's the logic people.
You mean like Ndombele caller?
Yeah, last big match, Ndombele. Look how that ended.
Exactly.
Can't get rid of him.
Every single piece of transfer history I can remember at Spurs is like when we spend big money, it's a flop. And we got Bentancur and Kulusevski, who were not wanted by Juventus. The Juventus that are dropping like a stone, they weren't wanted by them, and they've become 2 of our most important players. And within the space of weeks, they did. So I just, it's
Jack's got to find super chats in tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
I've seen a sign long way to get Dyer new contract. Yeah,
I think there's something to that for sure. I mean, Dyer's got, I guess, a couple of years left. And he's already 28, almost 29. So if you give Dyer a couple more years, he's with us until early to mid 30s at this point, and maybe we don't want to see it. Like if Dyer was homegrown, you'd do it in a flash because we will need players that can play a role. If Dyer became the squad player who was homegrown, we'd be thrilled. But because he's not, and he never will be, I can see that we might want to go somewhat younger or spend a bit of money.
It's interesting. I just think it's hilarious to watch people build people up and put people down, and the truth normally lies somewhere in between the middle, doesn't it? Let's be honest. Well, to skim back through where we were up to in the match. I mean, end-to-end stuff. We were all over them. Tom Brooks, thanks very much for your super chat. Appreciate it.
Tom, if you have a question, because you've done that, put the question in the next comment and we'll answer it for you, okay?
Absolutely. Stick it in there. They were all over us, and we were all over them, really. Obviously, the last-minute winner was fantastic, wasn't it? And this is the bit where I have to take everything back I've said about Højbjerg, that he can't progress forward into the final third, got no shot on him, and, this is the bit where Gibbo would be going, told you so. But I put a tweet out earlier this week. You got to hand it to Højbjerg. He's been magnificent this season, really, and he's showing that he can be a progressive midfielder who can score goals. And my God, didn't he finish that well, Matt?
Oh, brilliant finish! And obviously, beforehand, he nearly had a great goal when Moura played it into him, and then he hit the crossbar. And I was, when he did that, I was sort of thinking, was it? Yeah, when it hit the bar, you were just, it's just not our night to win this, is it? But I mean, the finish there. I mean, that's because I thought, when he was running through, I was like, we screwed this right. I mean, this is gonna, I mean, the power he got on the shot, and he's actually off balance as he hits it. I'm pretty sure he's almost slipped, or he's off on one leg in a way. But the power and the finish he got into it. But it's his mentality I like. I don't know if you guys obviously watched the Football Focus interview he did during the week. I mean, that just says a lot about him, and you can see the sort of characteristic that it shaped him as a player. I mean, he's very, very, he's obviously had to mature from an early age, and you can see that even all that stuff he was going through, with his dad, he's still, he got his Danish national team debut in the same year, and won with Bayern Munich. I mean, Pep Guardiola said he was a good player, didn't he? So he's not a bad, he's not a bad manager, and he knows good players. So I've been very impressed with Højbjerg, because I think I wasn't too sure if he's the answer, but if he carries on as he is, and him and Bentancur together, I just think it's almost a dream midfield too. Really, I just think they complement each other perfectly.
HG, your wife must be sick of these last-minute goals.
Certainly the ones that are late at night. Like, it's interesting. I was thinking, like, that Højbjerg goal was probably the most excited I've been this season at a Spurs goal. But then when I go back and I think, well, obviously, like, the Bournemouth goal meant a lot. That's what initially scared the crap out of her. And the one the one that was disallowed against Sporting, but it was the quality of the strike. I don't think any of us thought he was actually going to score. Certainly not with the strike that we saw. Like, he may have dribbled it in the corner. Maybe a goalkeeper would have dived over it, but not. I mean, that was unstoppable. And it's the 95th minute of a game. He's played the whole thing. It was genuine, and the fact that it meant so much. Like, finishing first and finishing second in the Champions League, like, part of you thinks it doesn't really matter, because you could finish top of the group and still end up with Inter Milan or still end up with PSG, right? Which is what we've done. But the odds are, I look at those list of teams and I think, obviously, if we'd finished second, we couldn't play Frankfurt, we couldn't play Chelsea, we couldn't play Man City, and then you're like, okay, and then suddenly who's left? You're left with Napoli and Bayern Munich and those big teams that win the groups. So to have the options that we do, even though there's no real weak team. I mean, I know Bruges possibly are the one that people would want to draw. It meant a lot, and I was.
But Bruges beat Atletico, didn't they?
They did. I mean, Bruges won the first 4 games in the group without conceding a goal, even though their group was still.
Mugs, are they?
I mean, there's
no bugs in the last 16 of the Champions League. These teams are the best of the best. That's the best 16 teams in Europe right now. You can't argue with it.
You certainly don't want to face Bayern Munich and then lose 10-2. So
no,
just Ten Hag. Finally, I've got to come to you, Craig. What was it like in the stadium when Højbjerg scored that goal?
It was orgasmic. It was, honestly, there was bodily fluids going everywhere.
There was a lot of foreplay, certainly.
There was. It was really good. And do you know what was brilliant about it? It was that typical, the amount of rubbish we was getting from them bloody home fans, and to be able to see their faces when that goal went in right at the end was just sensational. But I was just, the goal was coming, wasn't it? I think we've not talked about the Højbjerg attempt that come off the crossbar. I mean, that bit of play was just phenomenal and a great shot. And
I did touch on it. That was the foreplay.
Sorry, the foreplay. Yes, you did. You're right. Yeah, and that nearly got me off. The Højbjerg. I on my second pod, second show. Matt was host, and there's a question about. I think it was 3 or 4 games into the season, and it was who's your player of the season so far, and I said Højbjerg, and I got mocked. And
was I on that show?
HG would know. No, you wasn't. No. But HG would know, because we've spoken about Højbjerg before. My views on Højbjerg and how important he is to our side, and I think he's the gravy on a roast dinner, isn't he? He's not. He's if you don't have him, if you don't have the gravy on, it's just pointless. And he's just. What he's brought in his attacking play. I mean, someone's put in the chat, I think, is his total goal contributions. Is it like 12, 13, 14 goal contributions across the season? It's
9.
No, is it 9? Is it? I've over-egged him a little bit. He's right. Just. I've got so much love for Højbjerg, and him and Bentancur are just turning into, as Matt said, the dream partnership, aren't they? And when you take either one of those out of our side, we feel it, not just from a defensive perspective now, but in terms of what they're offering us going forward. Phenomenal. Loved it.
So, I feel like for a number of years we've sat there and we've had a bunch of central midfielders who were a bit of an 8, a bit of a 10. Like Dombele liked to go forward, Lo Celso liked to go forward, and we were a bit almost top heavy. Like we didn't have anyone that would sit. And Højbjerg was asked to do that, and Sissoko did it next to him. But again, neither one of them, it's not really their best position. And so having Højbjerg and Bentancur, who are probably more, they can be a 6 and they can be an 8. They're not the creative 10s really, but just having midfielders that are a little bit more defensively aware has allowed the rest of the team to flourish. And when our front three is in the side, a lot of it's like, again, if you can have those central midfielders who are comfortable defending, comfortable moving forward with the ball, then you can get your wing backs to do the creativity. You can get the front three to be the creative ones. Maybe we don't have those players right now, but if we want to build something, I mean, Højbjerg is what, 27? Bentancur is 25. You're going to get a good 3-4 years out of these two together. It's a lovely place to be.
There's a good foundation there, isn't there? In that midfield, like you say, that's how it's, I suppose, built from that, and then you suppose build around it. But
sorry, Matt. It's the way they pivot Bentancur and Højbjerg off each other.
Yeah,
it's just they've got such a good understanding of how they play in this under the Conte system. And I think again, Højbjerg mentioned something about what he was asked about his goal contributions and what's changed in his game, and he just put credit to the Conte system and just said, when you understand the system and you get it, it enables you to flourish and play in this way. And it's just phenomenal. Them two are just shining examples, aren't they, of everything that's good about Conte's system when it works.
But then you've got someone like a Basuma who can come on if you change to a 3-5-2. He can sit deep, and Højbjerg can sort of sit deep and go forward, but it releases Bentancur. And you saw how much it helped, Kane release him free and more, and there was just a lot more runners. So you've got these options, on the bench now as well. So it just opens up our midfield options even more, and you can release players like Højbjerg and Bentancur, who you think aren't necessarily going to score you loads of goals, but Højbjerg's already chipping in, so it will give him confidence. So that's good.
He's doing great. These are the Spurs late show. There you go. Those are our away performances in 2022. Watford, 96 minutes.
Caller. When you look at that list, do you only see 5?
Come into that.
You see 5 of them, Caller.
I knew you'd get very excited and aroused at this slide, so just calm yourself down. 96, 97th minute. Of course, I missed that. Man City 95th, Chelsea 96th, Bournemouth 92nd. I mean, it's just the late show, isn't it? But I suppose what does it show? That we don't give up, and that is an absolute Conte mentality thing.
But it does show we're not Spursy as well, in a way.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Absolutely. Like that's the first time I've looked at that Watford game, because that Watford game was bloody awful. We did not play well that day.
That one where Emerson was allowed like 40 yards of space.
Exactly.
Across it every time.
Exactly. And now we look at it and be like, oh yeah, that was the start. That was our first away win with a last-minute goal. That was the start of it all. I watched that game and thought, if the 2022 is going to be like this, I'm not interested, because it was like maybe the first game of the year.
Tom's come back with his question. My question was, as we hype at Romero and the incoming Bastoni, the pressure Bastoni would be immense, basically, which I think is a more than fair point. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, would they? The trouble is, when you sign these big money signings, the pressure they're under is just daft, isn't it?
And we talked about it when it was being linked, that I never got the impression that he really wanted to come. He's quite young. Inter is his side. He's won the league with them. Like, I don't think he thought he would be on the bench like he has been this season. But I don't think he was massively interested in leaving for anyone, even if it was Antonio Conte. I just don't think he was that bothered. So that might change if he goes the rest of the season without playing. Then next summer could happen. But I mean, if Inter don't improve,
his value's going to go down.
Well, there's also that, but I think for Inter, like, if I don't know where they are in the league, but I know they're not top 2 because it's Napoli and Milan. Like,
and they're 4th or 5th, I think.
Yeah, like if the new manager doesn't really get things together too much, they might want to switch again. I mean, you just never know. But I think if we're hoping that Bastoni comes next summer, well, let's hope that.
By the way,
let's hope in May. Like we'll know more about in May whether like what his situation there is. But
I always think it's risky not buying a player for that, whatever money it will be. But if they don't want to come, their head's not or heart's not really going to be in it. I'd rather have someone that wants to play for our football club.
Rather have Vardiol than Bastoni, JP.
I do like that Vardiol, but
Vardiol
Chelsea, isn't it?
Quality,
isn't he going to Chelsea though, or there's like
I thought it was City actually, but there's clubs chasing him. There's a lot of clubs chasing him, so I'd be surprised. Normally, when clubs are chasing people, that means we're out the running.
What's that? There's that guy I've been linked with today from is it Leipzig? There's a young defender. I can't remember his name. I saw we were linked with him today, or potentially looking into him. Because you're quite into the Bundesliga, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who it might be. I mean, like for a left-sided centre back. I mean,
I think he's come through this year, and he's quite young. He's got quite mad hair, I think.
Maybe Simakan.
I think it is. Yeah,
Simakan. Like Simakan's not a bad defender. I think that's probably damning him with faint praise. He's a very athletic defender. He kind of reminds me of the guy who's at Southampton. Is it Salisu? They're on their day, they're very, very good. Yeah. But you don't know how consistent that's going to be. Gvardiol looks like a defender. Like if you were going to imagine a defender, like at 18 years old, he had the thick beard. Yeah. Like, you know how Romero is like the baby-faced assassin. Well, Gvardiol is the take a look at me and run kind of defender.
He's a beast. He's a beast.
Yeah. So
he's going to mess you up. And if he don't get you, Romero will get you.
Yeah,
imagine two of them in it.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Imagine if you got another defender who's as aggressive as Romero and as precise as Romero. It'd just be wonderful, wouldn't it? But there we go. So everyone happy following that. Craig touched down safely. You're here. You didn't get locked in a French prison. Fantastic. A win in the Champions League. Who do we want in the? Oh, I should touch on this actually. This is a minute by minute analysis of the group. I love this slide because it's just like literally we are a roller coaster club, aren't we? We only feel the highs and lows.
I feel like everyone was almost in every position they could be in. Like I think, like because we could never drop to fourth. I knew that much.
No,
but I think Marseille not being first at any point is the only possible option that could have happened that didn't. It was mental, but brilliant because last night in the Europa League there was a group where all four teams finished on 8 points.
Yeah, it was on goal difference, wasn't it? Yeah, I saw that.
And of course, this man took great delight in showing him up. There you go, Mickey Hauser doing us proud there. Unlucky last night. Hey, I just love the way he's written it. He's such a nice guy, Mickey.
Alexis deserves it all because what he said wasn't based on fact. Like he might want to knock us out, but they only ever beat us once when he was playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's a dick, isn't he? Let's face it. Who do you want then? So Bruges. I think Bruges would be my pick. Craig.
Yeah, Bruges for me, mainly selfishly because I could drive there as well.
Yeah,
so be able to get a flight. So not too far. I could even take the wife for a weekend maybe.
Yeah, tie in.
I have a feeling we're going to get Dortmund again. I don't necessarily want it because we played them a lot, but I have a feeling we'll get Dortmund again, and I wouldn't be upset with that. That's probably to me that's like as good as Dortmund are. Yeah, exactly. I would rather play Dortmund than Leipzig. I'll say that.
Yeah,
even though Dortmund are higher in the league than Leipzig, I would rather play Dortmund.
Leipzig completely did us last time, so I have nightmares about that. Matt, who do you want?
I don't think I'd want Club Bruges. I think they're a bit of a surprise package, and I think normally when we come up against a team like that, where we're not favourites, but you think, we should roll them over. It doesn't seem to happen. I'd quite like Inter Milan.
There's a few people saying that in the chat, actually.
I think it could happen. Or I think I agree with HG, it could be Dortmund. But yeah, we have a good record against Dortmund. So, I mean, anyone.
Inter would be good for the Conte return, wouldn't it?
Well, it would. And, you could have a look at some of their, players as well. I mean, I
look
don't
at
know.
Bastoni sitting on the bench.
Yeah, literally, yeah. With Conte can have a word with him after the game or something, I'm sure. But yeah, no, it'd be, I think it'd be Inter or Dortmund. But yeah, I don't think I'd want Club Brugge. I really don't. I think they are a dangerous side.
And if the Champions League,
when's the draw, HG?
Sorry,
Monday.
When's the draw?
Yeah,
Is it Monday?
I just think like Spurs in the Champions League, whether it was 2010 or even more recently, whenever we've played a good team, we've done all right. And the group that knocked us out in 16-17 was Monaco, Leverkusen, and what was it, Moscow? Like we probably looked at that group and thought we're going to have this, and we came third, and then we lost in the first game of the Europa League. Spurs tend to do well when the opponent is better, and so I'm with Matt. Like Bruges, as easy as it looks on paper, not with Spurs. We don't play these games on paper.
Plus, I think we're in the Champions League, right? We're in the knock, so we're going to have to play the big teams anyway. Like, this is the reason why we like the Champions League.
Yeah, but I'd rather do it in the last day. Yeah, I'd rather do it in the last day.
I do think it's a good test of where your team's at coming up against
But we know where we're at.
Well,
we don't play in the first 45 minutes. We'll get mullered.
Let's get to the last 8 and then play.
I think anyone but PSG, and I'll be quite happy, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we've got nothing to worry about because ultimately we've been conserving all this energy in the first half of games for so long now that after the World Cup we're going to just let loose and fly. So it's all part of the strategy, I'm told. This little puppy is up on Sunday. What do we think of Liverpool, Craig? You there's a lot of needle between Liverpool and Spurs lately.
Yeah. I never enjoy playing Liverpool, home or away. I just hate the fixture, to be honest. And I'm particularly nervous about it on this Sunday because Liverpool are playing bad, and I think there's probably more of an expectation that we should at least get a result out of the game. I think ordinarily when we play Liverpool, it's almost a free hit, isn't it? If we get something,
the league table,
it's a bonus. Yeah.
10-point clear.
Yeah, that worries me. So it's gonna be a difficult game, I think.
Matt, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on the Sunday, so I'm hoping we'll put in a performance. Yeah, see you there. Yeah, but I think I don't know. I just think it's about bloody time we beat them. To be honest, I mean, when was the last time we beat them? Was it Wembley?
Was it Wembley?
Was it Wembley? And I just think, I think there are frailties there, but there are frailties in our team as well. I just got a feeling we might nick it. I don't know how or why, but I just think this team's mentality.
Brian Hill up top
seems to be there.
It's going to take something special, isn't it, HG, to beat old Kloppy's boys?
Define special. I mean, they've lost 4 games already this season. It's weird because there's only one more than us, right?
I was going to say,
when you look at it's more that the odds of us taking something from the game are pretty high, much higher than they were last year when we got a draw and probably no one was expecting it. It is a weird one because if I was to pick Liverpool's best front 3 right now, well, 2 of them are injured, so that's a good thing. And if I was to think of Liverpool's best midfield, well, most of them have been unfit for most of the season. So you might see all 3, but again, they're not really performing. And like the back 4, I think Alexander-Arnold's not had an assist all year. Like they're clearly not playing well, and I think that's probably down to whatever energy they had to high press has gone. They just haven't done it this year at all. Yeah. So, like, if you think of it like that, if Spurs were at their strongest, I'd expect Spurs to go out there and win. But we're not at our strongest. We've got one striker. So, it's. I totally expect to see the same again. I expect that we'll try and keep it slow and boring for 45 minutes and see what goes from there. I don't necessarily want that, but I just think that like if Liverpool were flying and we had the team that we're probably going to have, we'd all be like, okay, well, we've got to be defensive and try and nick a point. But because they're not flying, there is this idea that they're there for the taking. And if we don't go for it, we're going to miss out on the opportunity. And considering, like we know the media will be, well, Spurs, they're just boring. They don't try and score. Like, do we really want to feed into that again? Like, it's a rough one. Because, like, I think, 1-1 is always going to be the easiest bet. But if Spurs play like we did against Marseille second half, we can win.
Yeah.
Right? And the players that played second half are all available. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Like, Bissouma tends to show up against Liverpool as well. He always did for Brighton. So
it's an interesting one because Liverpool have only taken 2 points from 5 away games this season.
Okay, so they've not won a single away game.
No.
Oh, great!
Forest beat them. Yeah, it is one of those, isn't it? Dr. Tottenham, we're here to see you now, but it's like, even though we're third and we're doing very well, to me it doesn't feel like a big game. It doesn't have like those moments where
it'll feel like a big one Sunday. It will.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind. But right now, it just, like, I think we said before the show started, like, if Arsenal don't get a result at Chelsea, then it will feel like a big game because we'll have to win to keep Chelsea behind us, and we'll want to catch up on Arsenal if they've lost. So I almost feel like Sunday will depend on what happens in the Chelsea-Arsenal game for me. And that, Chelsea versus Arsenal, we can't really lose. Because if Arsenal win, it would suck, but that means that Chelsea have lost, which is good.
Points,
And so even like if it's a draw in that game and we go on and lose against Liverpool, it's awful because we don't. Liverpool have played a game less, so we don't want to have them the chance to just 4 points behind us.
You got Man United as well, haven't you? As well, they're closing the gap to us.
Yeah. So so much feels like unsettled about this season.
Yeah.
Like, Arsenal are playing well, City are doing what's required, doing what they've done before, and everyone else, it's kind of like, are Newcastle really the real deal? Have Man United really turned things around quite quickly and can go out and win as many games as they have?
Not in the Europa League, surely. Certainly.
Yeah, but go on.
Well, I was just going to say, we've won once in the last 10 years against Liverpool, so history is not on our side, and that was that win at Wembley. And of course, there's no Sonny, but we do have some good news. Kulusevski, Conte on Kulusevski. Decky had half a training session with us today. Tomorrow we'll see for sure. I want to speak with the player to ask if he is feeling positive. I don't want to force him, that's not right. But if he could give me the availability to come onto the bench and the possibility to play for 10, 20, 30 minutes if you're on the bench, you're ready to help us. Lucas is up and down with his tendon. He still has pain. Today he told me this, and I asked him to wait and to try and suffer in these last 3 games, and then we'll try and find the best solution. Trust me, we are suffering as fans watching Lucas. For sure, we're not talking about a player that is not 100%. If you add in all these difficulties, you understand how we're fighting with a big effort to overcome this period. Obviously, not great, and with these injuries, Richarlison's also not available for the game, same for Romero. So depleted, you would say, depleted. No Richarlison, no Romero.
We're pretty fortunate that Sweden aren't in the World Cup, because if they were, Kulusevski is like, okay,
he'd be waiting there,
but I mean, again, and I don't blame players for this. As much as we pay their wages, like, only having a week between the end of the season and the start of the World Cup is ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. We can go into that another time, most likely. But
you'll have plenty of World Cup shows to film.
Yeah, because Sweden aren't there, Kulusevski is probably raring to play, because if he doesn't do it in the next 3 games, he's not playing until December, right? Which for a football player, that would be, 3 months out with injury?
We've missed him. We've missed him, though, haven't we, Matt? We've really missed him.
Massively. I think he gives us that balance on when that front 3 are in, because he's one of the ones, obviously Son can't hold the ball up and kind of use his strength, but Kulusevski with his decision making, the way he holds the ball up, his end products just knits that front 3 perfectly. And also when Kulusevski plays, you normally find Royale can he doesn't really tend to go forward, does he? He does his natural job and does the defensive work, which he's actually not bad at, to be honest, to him. But Kulusevski gives him that freedom. It's the same with Doherty. When Kulusevski played with Doherty, he kind of unleashed him and it let Doherty go into, spaces where he can, put the ball in the back of the net or play passes into, our better players. So, no, he's vital, and I think you've seen it. And I think when he gets fully backfiring, I think you'll see the real Tottenham again. I really do.
Totally agree. Do you think this is Klopp's 7-year curse again, Craig?
I hope so. I hate him. Yeah. I think. Well, it's just a strange situation with Liverpool, isn't it? And what's going on there at the moment. I think they're suffering. I was speaking to one of my mates is a Liverpool fan, and I was saying I wondered whether they're suffering a little bit of what we suffered from. When we stagnated our squad a little bit, we didn't refresh the squad, we didn't add to it for a number of years, and I feel like they've, in part, had a similar sort of couple of seasons where it's broadly the same squad that's been in place for a number of time, perhaps got a bit stale when they have brought players in that haven't necessarily been, added or improved the squad in any way. And they're suffering massively with the loss of Mane, aren't they? Massively. But all things considered, there's something not right in the camp. And there's definitely something's changed. The way they play's changed. It's a strange situation. And it does have huge similarities to what happened to him in Germany, so we shall see.
Well, let's keep everything crossed then. I won't have to put up with these stupid
absolutely
face on adverts anymore.
Oh god, yeah, massively. God, I hate him.
So if you want to do it in German, lads, like you put your thumb between your fingers. Don't cross your fingers, you just put it like that. That's the same thing. Press your thumbs is what they say. So if you want that to
I'll do a double one then. Double.
There you
go.
Yeah, double. Come on.
Press your thumbs.
Oh, we're doing it. We're all over it. There's a great hypothetical question here, but I'm not going to go into that just yet. How do you think we're going to line up, Craig? Stick with you for a minute. What do you think the lineup's going to be?
I don't think we've got.
Come to all of you on this.
Yeah, I don't think we can. We haven't got too many options really. I think it will be. It will go back to Royale, right wing back. We'll have right wing back will be Perisic is my gut feel.
Left wing back,
sorry, Perisic. Right wing back, Royale. I think it will be Danny Davis, Dyer, and well, he can't be, can it? Because Romero's out, isn't he?
Don't say his name. Don't say that name.
No, I'm going to say yeah, but he's. I'll tell you why I think Sanchez might start. I don't want him to, by the way, but I think he might start because of his pace. I think he might start because of his pace. So I'm going to go for that. I'm going to call it Sanchez, Dyer, and Davis. Yeah, and then the midfield two will be the midfield two, and then I think it will be obviously Kane. Help me out.
Well, I wonder where you're going with it.
Lucas, yeah.
Well, that's
Lucas. So what that leaves you?
Oh no, I'm going. Bentacle's got to play. Sorry, we've got to play three in the middle, haven't we? We've got no choice because we've got no strikers. Okay. So it's going to have to be
3-5-2. Okay.
Yeah, 3-5-2.
HG.
I want it to be the same 11 that started the second half at Marseille. That's what I want. If Lucas can't do it because of his tendon or whatever, then I'd rather see Brian start over Kulusevski. I really would. Yeah. But I think that's the only choice. If Lucas can't go, then it has to be Brian. But if Lucas can, it's the team that started the second half against Marseille.
Okay, Matt.
I think if he wants to play a 3-4-3, I think I'd like to see the back three again of Longley, Dyer, and Davies. And then I think you'd either have to have Doherty or Royale. Then I'd play left wing back. I think he might have to play Sessegnon. Then you might play Bentancur and Højbjerg in midfield. And then I think he might he might deploy Perisic further up the pitch. He could play him on that left wing spot with Kane, and then maybe Moura. But if Moura's not fit, then I'd probably go Hill, and then you could maybe bring Decky on if you've got 20 minutes to go in the game, or you need something in the second half. I think that's what he'll do. But he might go for a 3-5-2 and bring in Basuma.
Yeah, I think he will go for a 3-5-2 and bring in Basuma, and I think he should go for 3-5-2 and bring in Basuma, because I think that Liverpool midfield is what he will do and what I would do are two completely different things. Yeah. You could play Kane and Perisic off him. You could play Kane and Lucas, which is probably what he will do.
I think that would suit Lucas a bit more, like as a sort of central, sort of more striker role rather than on the wing. Because when we've seen him come inside, he takes men on, doesn't he? Or he can do with his quick feet.
He just runs into blind alleys, Lucas.
Well, yeah, but if he wins you a free kick, or I don't know, try and wins you, dare I say, a penalty.
I mean, I'll tell you what I want to see, and then I'll tell you what we will see. So, what I want to see is Longley in the middle of that defence.
Yeah.
Dyer on the right.
Yeah.
Davis on the left.
Yeah.
I want to see Sessegnon at left wing back. I want to see Doherty at right wing back, but it won't be. It'll be Emerson.
Yeah.
So with you, HG. Did I say? Oh, I mentioned
you said Sessegnon. You said Sessegnon.
Why?
Why?
Because
there's no one else.
I want to play Højbjerg and Bentancur in the midfield.
Yeah.
And then I want to play Perisic up on the left side of the forwards, and I want to play Kane in the middle. And I'd like to see Hill on the right ahead of Lucas. That's what I would want.
I would like to see Perisic higher up. I think he could do a job.
But I think what we'll see, I mean, that's Perisic's natural position. That's where he should be playing by rights. What we will see is pretty much what HG suggested, which is the team that finished the second half, and it'll be
started the second half.
Sorry.
Started,
yeah. It'll be 3-5-2. It almost certainly will be 3.
But you might have to. If Liverpool want to play a 4-3-3, or I mean, recently they've been playing a 4-4-2, haven't they?
There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said for putting 3 midfielders in, because you got to boss that midfield. It's an old midfield, isn't it? Liverpool's, and I think you can get all over them and outwork them in the midfield, and I think that's what teams have done this season.
Every time I've seen Basuma start, though, he never seems to really take his chance, does he? He comes on when they change the formation in like a second half, and he just looks like a complete different player. But
it'll happen, though. It'll happen.
Yeah,
eventually.
It will. There's a player in there, definitely.
It'll happen eventually, so we'll wait for that.
If Henderson starts, we've got a chance, haven't we?
Well, I don't know, really. It depends which Henderson turns up. Here's the hypothetical question, which I hate these. Would you take 4th place now but no trophy if it was offered to you? Craig?
No. I'd gamble.
HG?
Now? No, we're 3rd. No, why would I agree to go down one spot?
And we've had
Go on.
And we've had I would argue we've had the toughest fixtures this half of the season. We've had really tough.
He's definitely putting these in the run sheet, so that at a later date when we've dropped to 6th, he can turn back around and reference this. Matt, I take it you're in there as well.
No, I'd gamble. It's like you say, we're 3rd at the moment.
I know as well. It's a crazy.
we haven't.
Question,
we haven't. I don't think we've fully clicked yet. I really don't. And
I don't know which one of you wrote the run sheet this week, but that's a stupid question. John. So there we go. This is if you're not already a member of the Cheese Room, Patreon member. Please do consider joining and jumping on board. I love this slide. I had it redesigned specially for Dave. To have Daniel Levy in it with him is just absolutely beautiful. Exclusive content. There's various written articles and faces in the crowd interviews, various other stuff, prizing discounts, chat group, Cheese Room merchandise after 6 months qualification period, fantasy football, predict a score, and all just £3 a month. Craig, as our latest Patreon, welcome.
Thank you very much.
If you haven't already checked it out, get over there to patreon.com/ Cheese Room podcast. Well worth £3 a month, in my opinion. I would just like to put this. Say again, sorry.
A cup of coffee. That's all it is. A cup of coffee.
That's all it is. I mean, all I would say is look at Hill. He is on the protein shakes.
He does look bigger, doesn't he? Yeah. Bless him. He's trying, isn't he? He's obviously taken stuff on board, and
he's taken the really fat bloke's advice. Who was next to me, telling me, in the chat, he needs to bulk up. He does.
He just needed a few more steaks in him and a few shakes and get training. That's all he needed.
Yeah. The thing is, he only gets to use the gym when no one else is there because they all push him off it. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
exactly. Right. So, predict the score then. What's it going to be, Craig?
Oh, I knew he was going to come to me first. 2-2.
Desmond. Matt?
I'm going 2-1 Spurs. I think we're going to do it.
2-1 Spurs. I love your optimism. 2-1's always a good score as well in the Predictor League. 2-1 home win. Always good.
Yeah.
HG?
I can't be confident because it's Spurs. I can't be. 1-1.
1-1. Oh. I said 2-2, to be fair. So,
I mean, Liverpool can score. I mean, it's weird because they went to Forest and they didn't, right? But you just don't think that's going to happen again. Like if they play Nunes and Salah, and I mean,
but if they give us space like they did against Forest, we've got much better players that will put it in terms of chances they had, we would have put them away.
Now that Son is not on corners, 4-0.
I just think it's about time we beat them. So I'm just going to go and I think we're going to do it. If you can't beat them this year, then
it's a fair point.
Spursy.
Yeah, that's a fair point. One win in 10 years against them. Due another one then, aren't we, John? That's what that tells me. And of course, we've got the predictor score for the rest of the games in the Premier League this weekend. Love this feature. So, Craig, do you want to lead us off? You go through each fixture, predict a score.
Okay. I'm going to go for 1-1 Leeds Bournemouth. I'm going to go 3-0 Man City Fulham. I'm going to go 1-0 Brentford to beat Forest. I'm going to go Brighton to beat Wolves 2-1. And I'm going to go Everton to beat Leicester 1-0. Chelsea to beat Arsenal 3-0. That's not my head speaking, I don't think. Man United to beat Villa 2-0. Newcastle to beat Southampton 2-1. West Ham to beat Palace 1-0. And then I've said 2-2 Spurs, Liverpool.
HG. Talk to me.
Home win, away win, home win, away win, away win. Bloody Arsenal. Arsenal always win at Chelsea. Like every year we think Chelsea are going to do it.
They always roll over.
Arsenal always pull it out.
Give them a tickle,
Yeah, and Liverpool always beat us as well, mate. Liverpool always beat us as well. This is the time. This is the weekend.
It is true. But like, I mean, that game was in April, and we had the cushion, and Arsenal went to Chelsea and scored 4, and were pretty good value for it. And you just thought, Chelsea, why do you always just jack it in against Arsenal?
Some of those goals were questionable, weren't they, on that game? I remember them. I was like, that's just not what you normally do.
So, I mean, I haven't said a draw yet, but mate, look, I think Leicester will beat Everton, so I'm not going back. Villa, Man United. United are better, but it's Emery.
First game, isn't it? First game.
Yeah,
will he be in?
At home, I'll go with the draw there, although I'm hoping rather than expecting. Southampton, Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle are winning, and they're playing really well.
Flying.
So it's flying. I don't want. I mean, I went against them last week, and they won 4-0. So I'm not going to do that again. Newcastle to win. West Ham Palace will be the draw of the week, and then Spurs Liverpool will be another draw.
Matt, what saith you?
I'll go. I think Leeds are going to beat Bournemouth. I'd probably say like 2-1, something like that. I think Bournemouth just concede quite a lot of chances, especially set pieces and stuff like that. They didn't look great against us. Man City, I think 3-1. I think Fulham might get a goal because I think they've got some good goal threat and they'll go forward. They're not going to sit back there. I think Nottingham Forest and Brentford I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think Wolves Brighton. I think Brighton will win 2-1. Everton Leicester. Everton are good at home and they're not bad defensively. I'm going to go. I might go 1-0 Everton. Chelsea Arsenal. I'm going to go for I fancy like a 1-1 draw. I don't think it'll be a goal fest just because it's an early kickoff and no team really. The early kickoffs are never good, are they? So, Aston Villa, Man United. I think United will probably win that. I think they might nick it like 1-0. Yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Man United. Southampton, Newcastle. I'll go 3-1 Newcastle. I think West Ham I think they might win 1-0. I've been watching Palace recently. They don't look too great. They don't look great defensively, and in attack they're not scoring enough of the players they've got. And like I said, Spurs Liverpool. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling the pressure now. Such a 3 excellent sets of predictions. Leeds are going to beat Bournemouth 3-1. Man City are going to stuff Fulham 3 or 4-0. Forest are going to lose to Brentford 2-1. Wolves are going to lose to Brighton. Sorry, Dad. 2-1. Everton, I just fancy him to get something against Leicester. Don't know why. 1-0. Chelsea and Arsenal. I mean, it's just shit meets shitter, really, isn't it? Hate you both. 1-1. Villa. So difficult to predict Villa. But I don't think Man United are particularly good either, if I'm honest. So let's go for a draw 1-1. Southampton are going to get dicked by Newcastle 3-0. West Ham are sadly going to beat Palace 2-1. And Spurs are going to draw with Liverpool 2-2, as I said previously.
It's interesting. Like, there's always one team that goes to City and wins unexpectedly, right? Like, it's Palace have done it a couple of years. I think Leicester have done it a couple of years. Well, us is also unexpected, but I was thinking more of a lower ranked team. But like Fulham are what, 7th? They've got a goal scorer, Mitrovic.
The problem I see is Man City. Well, normally when they lose, like when they lost to Liverpool, they tend to go on like a 10 to 12 game winning run, and then someone else will maybe pop. When they lose, they tend to react like just really annoyed and just need to take it up a notch and just go on one of their mad runs that they can do.
I'm just thinking out loud that if City were to lose and Arsenal were to lose, suddenly the Sunday game for us becomes huge. And I don't know, like I mean, obviously I want us to be in that position. I don't think we will, but wouldn't that be interesting? Like Fulham could go to City and win, and Chelsea could obviously beat Arsenal. So it's not that implausible. It is pretty implausible, but
I think the thing with Chelsea and Arsenal is obviously Chelsea have just come on the back of being spanked 4-1 as well. So I know normally they do roll over for Arsenal, but I think there's going to have to be a reaction from them on Sunday, which could, but whereas normally when they play them, Chelsea have been on like they've won quite a lot of games, whereas this one's like, okay, we've got to put in a performance.
Yeah. Like any other week, I'd be laughing at Arsenal having to play Sunday lunchtime after Thursday night. But I imagine their Thursday night team was a bunch of kids and the reserves because they were already through in the Europa League. So
I think they played like Kieran Tierney like last night and a few of their other top players. I mean, they only just got over the line. In fairness, it was only 1-0. They're not.
Yeah.
So
isn't Saka out as well?
He got injured last week. I don't know how serious it was, but
didn't he? He played, didn't he? I'm pretty sure. They probably. I think he didn't play last night, but they probably rested him, and I think it's just a knock. I think he's going to probably be all right.
It'll be interesting to see what they do, because like if Arsenal end up getting the injuries that we've had this season,
exactly.
how will they cope? Because we know their best 11 is very good. I think they've proven that this season already. Like we don't have to, like it's annoying, but that is what they are. But after that, yeah, like if Gabriel Jesus is out, do you think Nketiah is good enough? There's a question mark.
Obviously, we lost Decky, Richarlison, and obviously Son now. It would be like taking out Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka for them, in a way.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway,
agreed.
I'll still be cheering on Chelsea. I know that's awful, but I'll still be cheering on Chelsea.
I just won't cheer on it. It's shit meat shitter. I can't.
I think a draw would be. I think a draw would be. You know, it's almost the best of both, isn't it? But yeah.
I just want to see Arsenal lose, just try and burst their bubble a little bit, take the momentum away.
Yeah, it needs rocking at some stage.
I'd like to see them get spanked like 3-0 or something. Just Chelsea to come out like they've done against us over the years and just go right. Let's have it. Yeah.
Arsenal have got Newcastle the week after as well. So, yeah. Anyway, go on, caller.
Did you see this on Twitter?
I did. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Matt?
It's a lovely touch, I think, to send it to, his family. It just shows what, obviously the he did for Dyer. It's obviously a massive thing to him to get back into the England team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he obviously got engaged today, didn't he, Eric Dyer, as well, didn't he?
He did. He's broken a couple of hearts, apparently. HG's maybe. He's got a bit of a man crush on Eric Dyer.
I have a man crush on Eric Dyer, but that's all it is.
Promise?
Yeah, I'd like to see a picture of his fiancée. That would be interesting to me to see what she actually looks like. But
she's quite nice. Yeah, no, she's not bad.
Not like
bad. What is it about Eric Dyer that go on?
Who's going on? I was just saying, I bet I'll put money on her not looking slightly more attractive than you, HG. Yeah. So
I like. Hey, he's right in a dress.
Eric Dyer's always pictured with that, like he's obviously got a woolly hat on, hasn't he? And then someone the other week did like a comparison of the bloke from Home Alone. The guy who went, "Oh, it's so good." He's got it on his photo today with his. On his Instagram, there's the engagement photo, and he's got the hat on again, and I'm sure there's something in there. But I just found it brilliant, the sort of half and half photo. I was like, oh, great.
He's our version of Slabhead, isn't he? Let's be honest, he's got an enormous head. I think he's better. Anyway, yeah, I'd agree with that. So, but yes, absolutely nice touch. So listen, Gibbo and James will be back on Sunday, 6:30-ish. With the live reaction show. I'll be there. Craig, I guess you'll be there.
Yeah.
At the game.
100%.
Affirmative.
Yeah, at the
He's
game.
still jet lagged. Matt, you're there. HG, sadly you're not, but you're there in spirit. So 6:30. Do set your alarms, your iPhones and everything else for the instant reaction show. And there'll be a pod out as well on Sunday night, so check out all good pod providers, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., etc., etc. We just love bringing you content at the Cheese Room. Go on the Patreon, subscribe to this channel, and we'll be back Monday night at 9 p.m. to review the Liverpool game and preview the League Cup, which seems to be a long time coming, against Nottingham Forest on Wednesday night. Craig, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to hear about all things Marseille.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation as always. Merci beaucoup.
Très bien. HG, HG, thanks for joining as ever. I do love that shirt, by the way, that you're representing tonight.
Yeah, it is one of my favourites. I don't usually buy Tottenham shirts, but this one, as long as I still fit, it goes on. And
is it the curve one? Did we ever win in that? Did we ever win in it? Did we win one game?
Surely. I mean, I know Jose was boss, but surely we won at least once. Oh, that would be. It's class.
we wore it.
I love
wore it
collars.
like it. Yeah.
Collared football shirts are it for me. I do love them. But yeah, it was fun to be on. Tonight was a really good show, and hopefully Sunday will be a better first half and a just as good second half.
And just as good a show. No pressure, James and Gibbo. And Matt, thanks very much for joining. Always a pleasure to have you on, mate.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. No, it's been a good show tonight, and yeah, it's a good that's a good warm up for Sunday. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the game now. So yeah, thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. Until next time, hit the subscribe, hit the like, and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.